Hello, sixth grade teachers. My name is Will McPherson. I am one of the secondary instructional coaches for special education, and I will be walking you through the iReady Reading Math Diagnostic User Guide. This will assist you in ensuring that everything is set up and ready to go for your sixth grade resource students to take the iReady assessment. And it will also just give you some background and support you in pulling information, results that the students have produced as a result of taking the assessment. So let's begin. You can see within this announcement below this video, there is the sixth grade iReady Reading Math Diagnostic User Guide. If you want to open that up and take a peek at it, it's always a good idea just to get some foundation, but I am going to walk you through it pretty explicitly here as well. So let's get started. We do have our title page here, followed by the table of contents and the topics we're discussing that are pertinent to you in administering the iReady diagnostic. Just generally getting started. What is the iReady diagnostic? So providing some background for you so you're able to articulate to the students and anyone else that is inquiring about the diagnostic, just some basic information. We will also look at navigating the iReady program on a general level, as well as planning and administering the diagnostic for students, and then providing some insight on how to pull reports and review student performance. As I said, my name is Will McPherson. I am the secondary reading and social studies coach for special education, and Mike Allen is my counterpart in the math and science special education coaching. And our email addresses are here. Please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have, if any concerns come up while you're administering the diagnostic, if there are students that need to be added, please just feel free to reach out at any time and one of us will get back to you. So starting off, we just have a general getting started checklist for the teachers, and that's checking equipment and your login. So you just want to first ensure that you have computers available, whether you're taking it in the computer lab, reserving that space, or reserving a Chromebook cart on your campus. Students will need a device to complete this. You also want to just be able to confirm that you can download and print PDF reports using the computer that you have. Typically, this is very easy for everyone to do. There shouldn't be too many issues, but if for some reason you're unable to print a PDF report, you'll want to reach out to tech services or reach out to myself. Get personalized with your iReady login information, and that login information will come from us here at District. We are setting up all of the teachers and students in the program, and we will have a medium for you to go in and retrieve that information. And then the next step would be to log into the program. And I will show you how to do that now. You would go to this web address here, login.i-ready.com. And the site looks like this. And you would go ahead and enter in your username and your password. And none of the username is not case sensitive. The password is actually case sensitive. It will have an uppercase letter, lowercase letter, as well as numbers. So I'll try that now. We'll select the state as Arizona and hit go. And when that's done, you'll be taken directly to your iReady home screen. It should appear just as mine is appearing now. I am logged in as a teacher. The next step, once you're able to log in, is to ensure that all of your students are in the system. If they're not in the system, you're going to want to contact Mike Allen or myself to remedy that situation. I would do this either the day before or several days before, just to ensure that that information is in there and every student can take it all at the same time, so you're not having to search for any stragglers or anything like that. And the steps for finding that information are logging into iReady, which we've just done, clicking on the Rosters tab, I'll show you here the rosters tab. And then once in the rosters tab, the next step is to click on the classes subtab. And the classes subtab is here, and it defaults to that page for you automatically. And the next step is edit. And when you select edit, a new window will open for you here. And all of you should have the students typically in one class. If you have additional classes, you'll have to do this twice. Once the student enrollment subtab appears, which is here, you can select it and you can easily view student usernames and passwords. These are just stock students. If you would like to print these off, there's actually a nice little feature down here called print passwords, and you can see that from any of the tabs within this screen. And when you select print passwords, it's going to generate a PDF for you. I'm going to select OK. And when that's done, you can see here, you actually have strips of paper that you can cut out and give to the students individually. That way you're not having to always go back to your screen and write things down. It's all easily accessible for you. You just simply cut these out along the dotted lines and hand them to the student. It has their name, the login site that they will access, which is here. They would just type this into their URL bar. And it also gives their username as well as their password. Again, the usernames are not case sensitive. The password is case sensitive. So moving back to our guide, we scroll down to the what is the iReady Diagnostic. You can see that we provided some information for you, just general background information in case you would like to articulate this to any colleagues, any students, or any parents should they inquire about the iReady assessment. With the iReady assessment, they are going through a virtual program and answering questions either in the field of reading or the field of math. And each of those has specific domains that they're assessing the students on, whether it's phonics for reading or number sense for math. And there are quite a variety of domains, and we will look at those later as we move to the report section. The idea behind the iReady assessment is to help teachers pinpoint student strengths and needs, which is actually pretty pertinent given that with our IEPs, we're identifying strengths and needs. So this is an assessment that really gives a large amount of information for you to actually assess students and see where it is, what are those specific skill sets that they're struggling in, which will also help you determine placements for next year in 7th grade, which is the more general purpose of administering this assessment. I think it's also important for you to know that the diagnostic is an adaptive assessment. And what that means is as the students move through the assessment, if they get a question correct, the following questions tend to get more challenging. As students get questions incorrect, the system tends to produce easier questions for them. So it is kind of a push and pull, trying to adapt the assessment and provide items specifically to ascertain that student's strengths and needs. iReady is pretty good about pinpointing those. Moving down, I know the general purpose of this is to determine student placements for 7th grade within language arts and math, but it's also a good indicator just for you generally, as I said, with IEPs to determine student strengths and needs. This is an assessment that you can utilize just beyond this general purpose of placement for your own classroom information, for completing IEPs, and for just reporting out to parents, if necessary, student skill sets. Moving down a little bit more, we're just looking at some basic information on what the assessment itself looks like from a technical level. You can see here, this is the opening screen that students will see as they begin the math assessment. And then down here, this is the reading assessment. There is an individual, a cartoon character, who does help lead the students through the assessment and provide directions. So you can see those individuals here. Moving down a little bit more, you can see just a few general topics. This teachers tend to ask about how long does the assessment take. Typically, the assessment can take two 40 to 45-minute class periods. So it is recommended that if you are scheduling in a computer lab or are scheduling devices such as Chromebooks in your classroom, to schedule those for at least a 90-minute period. If not that, a period of 45 minutes one day and a period of 45 minutes the next. Some students may finish quicker, and some students may take actually longer than that. But just generally, we recommend two 45-minute periods per diagnostic. So if you do have a student taking the math and the reading, you're going to want to allocate more time for that. So a total of 180 minutes if they're going to be taking both, just to be safe. You can see here images of a brain break and a math diagnostic game. As the students move through the assessment, it does provide breaks to kind of reset, give them a chance to refresh themselves, just take an opportunity to take a break before they jump into different segments of the test. So when you see these games or these brain breaks popping up, it is something that they should be participating in. It's not that they've gone off into a different screen or anything like that. It actually is effective in helping the students to reset themselves. Typically, the brain break and the games last about a minute. And then another general topic is stopping, restarting, and resetting. If you can't have an entire period where all the students are able to finish, the students are able to complete the test another day. They can actually stop from where they are and then reset that test at another time, and it will save their progress as long as they're logging out of it appropriately. It will save that data. Typically, it will catch it too if for some reason the student closes their device without moving out of it, or they lose internet access. It can pick that up, but we do have issues sometimes with students not logging out correctly and then losing some of that data. Once a test has been submitted, though, once the student clicks the submit button, there is no way to reset that. They would actually have to take another assessment, and in that case, you would want to contact Mike Allen or myself to go in and assign another diagnostic for them to take if for some reason they're in it for 2 minutes and hit submit, and you know that they did not put forth effort. There is another section on how often the diagnostic can be administered. It can be administered every 12 to 18 weeks, but this isn't really something you have to worry about. We are just doing this one-time assessment for the students. And then moving down, I did say that the reading diagnostic and the math diagnostic both have a variety of domains that they're assessing, and you can actually see those here. We do have foundational skills in reading, phonological awareness, phonics, and high frequency words. Moving on to vocabulary, comprehension of informational text, and comprehension literary text. And just as reading has domains, and you can see kind of those subtopics there, moving into math, we also have numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, geometry, geometry and measurement, and then measurement and data. Kind of a holistic span. So we move on to the next section, navigating the iReady program. You will see me moving back and forth between the screens. So as we saw before, when you log into the program, it always defaults here to the home screen. You can see a variety of tabs are listed at the top here. And the main tabs that we'll be utilizing to administer and then pull reports are the roster tab and the reports tab here. Moving down, you can see that roster tab was where we were able to view the students that are listed on our roster and also pull those credentials, the usernames and passwords for the students. And the reports tab is something that we'll talk about once we move through a few of these sections. So again, it's just typically the rosters and reports tab, which you're going to worry about when we're looking here at this home screen. There is quite a bit of information though. So logging in for the first time, we did discuss how to do that. You need your username and password. That password is case sensitive. It does require a capital, a lowercase, and a number. And as I said, those credentials will be distributed from district in some medium to you. You go to the iReady website, and then once you log in, we are at the home screen. I also want to discuss briefly the student application so you're aware of what they're seeing. So students do have the same login pages as the teacher, and that was this page here. So they will see the exact same thing that you see, username, password, and state. And once they log in, they will actually be greeted by a screen to choose a subject. And in your case, you will have a reading or a math. So you will want to plan ahead which assessment you're going to have them take first. It really doesn't matter which one if they're taking both. You can start with reading or start with math, whatever you prefer. But I would try to have all the students take the same assessment on the same day if possible. And the program is really user-friendly for the students. You would simply click the subject that you want to have administered. So the student could click reading. And then once they click that, the next screen that they're faced with here is an option to begin the diagnostic assessment. And that's just a green thing here, this tap, this button. You can see there is another little character. This is a robot, and he does provide instructions for them on how to navigate these pages should any of the students get stuck. Scrolling down, just to give you a little bit of background on the student test taking experience, you can see we have several diagnostic items here. In this case, this is from the math diagnostic, and this here is from the reading diagnostic. The general aesthetics of the program are pretty engaging for the students, and it is very easy for them to move through the program. All questions are automatically scored as either correct or incorrect by the program. And then in reading, some questions are grouped as a set with reading passages and some multimedia. What that means is you may want to procure headsets for the students if you have a large group in one area. That way everything is personalized when they're taking the assessment. If you do have kind of a sparse group and you are taking it in a lab and you have lots of space, you can just space them out and ensure that the sound isn't up too loud, and they can just move through it like that. It's really up to you depending on what you would like. Depending on questions, grade levels, and student abilities as they move through, there typically are 3 or 4 answer choices. You can't remove any of the answer choices. They are all set automatically based off of the students that are entered and as they move through the program, their ability. Moving down a little bit more, you can see to answer assessment items, the students simply select the item, right? They hover over it and it will turn a different color. They will click on that answer and then they will click done, moving them over to the next item. You can see here highlighted blue, but they have to ensure that they do click it in order for the system to register before selecting done. If a student changes their mind about an answer before they click done, you would simply just click one of the other answers. It will revert to that, and then they can click done from there. So pretty user-friendly for the students, pretty easy. There is an interesting feature with the reading diagnostic, and that is reading passages with multiple items. Some groups of questions are referring just to a single reading passage. So here we have the passage itself, the giant squid, and then we have multiple items here for the students to select. Students have to click the arrow at the bottom of the reading passage to flip through the pages. This may be something you'd want to monitor as you move about the room and front load with the students, letting them know they need to check how many pages there are in those reading passages, okay? As they move through these pages, if there's one or more pages, these will still stay the same for them, okay? Students would select the answer. If there's more than one question, the next question will load after the student selects an answer and clicks done, and this passage will remain as well. So there may be multiple items for this. So if they say, I keep having to do the same thing, you may want to take a look and ensure that they are actually having different answers and kind of explain to them that in this case, they have multiple questions related to the one passage. And then, as I said, there are several items with audio support in reading and in math. In math, for grades K through 5, all questions have optional sound to ensure the test is assessing math skills and not reading skills in this case. That's not necessarily the case for 6th grade. Sound is provided with reading questions that test students' foundational skills. And then when a question has audio support, you will see the audio buttons here, okay? And the student would select that and it would read it out to them. As I said, the test is adaptive, so you can't really administer it to everyone at one time. If there is a particular student who has difficulty with reading and you would like support with for the math items, you would either have to sit with the student themselves or provide another adult to sit with that student and work through those items with them. And then just for you to kind of monitor progress, when the student is in the system and moving through the diagnostic, at the very bottom of their screen, there is a progress bar. That bar will let you know how much longer the students have to complete the assessment. So as you can see in the example here, the student is almost about halfway through. They have 35% of the assessment completed in here. If the students want to hide that progress bar, they simply click My Progress and will go away. Or this option here with the arrow to kind of collapse that. So that will allow you to kind of monitor, see where the students are at, and then plan ahead if necessary to either release a lab or release a Chromebook cart or to try to extend it. So moving on to the next section of planning and administration, we do have some guides here to help you if you want to print these out. These are just generally helping to get you and the students in the framework or in the mindset of taking the assessment and ensuring that everyone is successful and that there are very few glitches as you move through. You will want to check compatibility and system requirements. I've yet to find a device that doesn't work well with iReady, with the exception of the thin clients, and those are typically at the secondary level. If the students are taking it within the math lab or on a Chromebook, there shouldn't be any issues with that. You will want to gather any materials the students may need. As I said, headphones if you do have a large class or there is a student with a hearing impairment. Scraps of paper and pencils for the math assessment. No calculators should be allowed for the assessment. It gives an inaccurate representation of the student's ability, and we're really trying to see what their strengths or needs are in the area of math. If calculation just generally is one of those, we want to pinpoint that. And then you also want to have something planned for any students that finish early, whether that's a silent reading book or any materials you're doing in the class that they need to complete, because you will have students finishing at very different times in this assessment. You also want to make sure that you print those student usernames and passwords. Those steps are outlined here again, or you can rewind back to the beginning of this video and I walk through those steps for you. And then you also want to prepare for any special considerations, so any general accommodations and modifications that may be required for some students, such as having math items read aloud. The program doesn't allow for reduced choice because we really want to see what the students know. So just be aware that that is not an option for this one. Step 4 of preparing is scheduling the test, and all of that has been done for you. This is not something you need to worry about unless you have a student that has either rushed through the test or has submitted too early and you need to have another one assigned. In that case, as I said earlier, you'll contact Mike Allen or myself. And then also computer lab logistics, just making sure that you schedule out enough time to complete both assessments if that is what you're doing. And as I said, it's typically 2 45-minute blocks. At the elementary, it may be a little bit easier than at the secondary level in that you do have the kids for a larger part of the day. So in that case, you do want to allocate for both math and reading as a total 180 minutes. And then again, as I said, that may be less or could be more for some students. So moving on from just preparing yourself generally into preparing students, you are going to want to frame the diagnostic for the students, set their expectations prior to the diagnostic by just talking about the test and a few points. such as the fact that the iReady diagnostic gives each student an individualized test, and then based how they answer each item, it will get harder or easier. As we said, it is that push and pull adaptive format. And that's how it does determine their skill level. So as they move through, the questions are going to get harder. And that's kind of the idea of the assessment, is they do need to be getting some of these wrong in order to really ascertain their skill levels. But we do want them to try their best. And we want to make sure that there's a general sense that a lot of the items that they're going to meet on these assessments are not something they've seen before, and that's okay. Also, based on how the students do on the iReady, you as a teacher will know exactly what they've learned already and what they need to learn so that you can make better decisions for them. A lot of times the students have a sense, especially at the elementary level, of trying to do their best to please individuals. And if they know that this is something that's really going to help you as a teacher as well, they might be more motivated to take their time. Point 3 is actually really important, and that's here. It is important to take your time and not rush. Otherwise, you may need to retake the test. The good thing about the iReady diagnostic in both math and reading is it will actually indicate, once the student is done, how much time they've spent on an item. And it will indicate either with a yellow hand or a red hand if the students have rushed through those items. And then again, it's up to you to determine, is it because the student had no knowledge of that, or is it because they really didn't take their time on the test, in which case you would want to have that assessment reset by Mike Allen or myself. Then you might want to provide some instructions. Moving down here, just generally respecting, the computer lab, taking your time, raising your hand if you have any questions. There is a point right here. The program does have an instructional component, but this is not something that we currently have as a district. So this point here can be neglected. Once the students are done, it's not going to assign them any lessons or anything like that. We actually, as a district, take those reports and then build with the materials we have to meet any needs. As I said, you have here reviewing computer lab and classroom procedures, and I'm sure most of the students are pretty familiar with those based on your site's expectations. And then we do have model and discuss the test taking experience. So you can refer back to these items here, just letting them know what it will look like and how to go through it. The assessment itself does provide some instruction with the students taking that. And we will also include the general iReady instruction manual within the classroom. And you can see here, it does provide larger visuals that you could walk through with the students. And it gives you what it is, the login screen, and then where you can find that. And these are various appendices and the page numbers in there that you can find that information. So the program is very helpful in terms of preparing the students, and a lot of that information can be found within the iReady user manual that we will also upload should you wish to discuss any of these items with the students. So in summary, we do provide a checklist for preparing for the diagnostic assessment, which discusses most of the topics we just went through. There's also a few others, such as if you need a specific seating plan, trying to work out a system for bathroom breaks, and then trying to find any additional supports, such as paraprofessionals if a student needs certain items read and things of that nature. So there you are with that checklist if you'd like to review that and print that out so you're ready to go the day before. Moving down into test day and the administration of the diagnostic assessment, the morning of the test day, you're just checking your materials, making sure that you have headphones if that's something you're going to utilize for the students, making sure that if the students are doing math that day, they have scrap paper and pencils, reminding students not to utilize a calculator. Some students do have their cell phones, just reminding them to keep those within their backpacks. It's not something that they should typically be having out while they're taking an assessment, but some students are accustomed to using their calculator on their device. And then ensuring you have a backup plan for those early finishers. This point here, as I said, we do not have the instructional component for iReady. The program does recommend having a brief refresher of classroom and testing procedures and instructions for the students. Depending on your group, they may need to be reminded again on some of those topics, such as ensuring that they're working only on their own test, ensuring that they are taking their time with each assessment, and ensuring that they're asking questions when they don't understand something. The test is not timed, as we've said before, but you should explain that the students need to be working productively so that they can all get through it within a reasonable amount of time specific to the student. During the test, we do want to resist the urge to help the students. As I said, there is quite a bit of information on here that the students are not going to have experience with, but the idea is to really find out their strengths and weaknesses, and they need to be allowed to complete this on their own. The test is adaptive, so if the student is getting numerous items wrong, it is going to get easier and easier to kind of ease up some of that frustration that some students feel when they're just taking a stock assessment and it seems like it never gets any easier. And then again, ending a test before completion. If a student does not finish in the allotted time, or if the student has to stop the test for any reason, you simply click the X at the top right of that screen right there, and then have the student log out. The next time the student logs in and clicks Start Test, they should be taken to the exact same spot. And then after the test, you just want to ensure that the test has been completed. The best way to do that is to just tell the students to stay logged into the assessment, and when they're done, they'll be greeted with this screen here. Okay, so this is probably the easiest way for you to ascertain that. There are other ways by going through reports, but just straight off the bat, looking here, having the students stay on this screen before they move on. Instruction is not enabled, but if you have a student taking the reading and math test, you can see that once they've completed one test, there is an option. For example, they've completed reading to then select math and then begin that test as well. And the same preparations and administration procedures apply. So once the student has completed that and you confirm that they've completed their assessments and everybody is done, you would then want to go ahead and look at reports. And we're going to get into that in the final section of this. The reports will provide the results for you. So moving down, we do have a FAQ provided for you. And you're welcome to go through any of those topics with the students should you need to. And there's more there. So reviewing student performance. All of the students in this case have completed the iReady either reading or math diagnostic or both, depending on your student population. And now is the time to pull those reports and to determine student strengths and weaknesses. And these are the reports that you will utilize to inform placement at the junior high level. So just generally understanding scoring, iReady uses scale scores, and that lets them compare student scores across grade levels. So just so you're aware here, the system is utilizing scale scores. Moving down, if we're going to utilize reports, when you're done with it, you're going to utilize this topic here, which is the Go to the Reports tab, okay? The system has a variety of reports. What we recommend is accessing student reports, and I'll show you in the system. Let me log in again. The Reports tab is located here. And as I said, the best report feature to use is the student reports, and that's right here on this sub-tab. And when I select that, you can see this drop box here has changed, and you're actually going to want to access student profile. So I was in reports, student reports, and then I select student profile, okay? So when I select student profile, many of these drop downs default. You can see here the current year, and I'm going to select reading, because that's all I have for this student. If I'm wanting to select or view the results for a math assessment, this is where you would change here. You would open this and you would be able to view the math section of the test. I'm going to select my student, in this case, Alex, okay? And then your student should only have one assessment. If for some reason you assign or you have assigned another diagnostic test to a student because they hit submit too early or they didn't take their time, you would have an additional test down here and you would want to select the most recent test, obviously. And when I have all of this, I will select create report. And when I do that, I receive this. So let's hop back in here. The very first tab that you're going to see is the overview tab. And there's one for math and there's one for reading. And you can see here it goes through overall placement, and my screen's a little bit easier to read. In this case, I'm on reading, but it should be the same for math. You can see overall placement, and we have our scale score here. To be on level, they would need to be within this range. And this placement right here corresponds to a grade level. So in this case, overall performance is at about 6th grade. You can see the test date here. You can see that the student is below level based off of the key at the top. And then we also have this feature. As I said, the program will alert you if students have rushed through an assessment. In this case, at the overview, we have a red hand. And when I click that, I'm given the results here indicating that the student spent less than 11 seconds on average per item in this diagnostic administration. This would be an indicator that maybe I need to have another assessment assigned to the student and have them retake it and monitor them to ensure they're really taking their time. Because given this indicator here, it's hard to reliably confirm that the results they have are accurate and valid. So still on the overview tab, you can see it will break their test down into various domains and give you a general placement level. So we have a grade 10, a grade 4, and a grade 5. So just clarifying one more time, these are scale scores. These are not accurate in terms of grade level correlations. Our grade level correlations are found here. So vocabulary, level 10, roughly corresponds to a grade 10. Comprehension, literature, grade 4, and informational text, grade 5. There is some more information just giving you a developmental analysis here of each of those areas on a general level. And as you can see, we have the same tabs for math as well as for reading. You can see we do have another caution. If you do see these items, please ensure that the student has really taken their time with the assessment. And again, if they have not, please contact Mike Allen or Will McPherson, myself, and we can go in and assign another one. You are able to assign diagnostics yourself, but I would highly recommend contacting Mike Allen or myself to support you in ensuring that this is done. So moving down into specifics, we saw the overview tab, which just gives you general strengths, weaknesses, things of that nature. The program is also really unique in that it provides domain-specific tabs. And you can see this is the math and this is the reading. So on my screen where it's a little bit easier, if I scroll back up, those tabs are found here. And when you click them, it gives you very specific information related to just that domain. So in this case, vocabulary, we can see student is at grade level 10, and based off of the X, they are below grade level. We do have their scale score. And moving down, we can see what Alex can do, translating as strengths, and next steps for instruction, which translates to weaknesses or needs or challenges here. And the program is very specific in terms of strengths and needs. So with the needs, for example, you can see build and deepen use of dictionaries, glossaries, extend understanding of word relationships. And it actually goes into greater detail here for each of these areas. So again, the program is utilized for supporting students in placements for junior high, but this is also something that you could utilize on an IEP. Reading, writing, and math in the new EIP Pro system are all broken up into strengths and needs. This is something that makes that very easy for you and also helps to inform your classroom instruction. So if we hop over to another domain, in this case, comprehension literature, you can see grade level 4, but more importantly, we can see skill sets here. So we can see here what Alex can do, the strengths, the current skills that Alex possesses, identify point of view in literary text, determine word and meaning, and then those next steps for instruction. What are the needs that Alex is currently presenting in terms of comprehension literature? And you can see there's quite a few, and they are very detailed in terms of support. So those are available for math and for reading. And I do recommend that you go deeper into those and kind of have a look. Excuse me. Within those reports, there's also quantile and lexile tabs as well. And those are at the junior high and the elementary level that those are provided. And those would be in an additional tab found right here after, in reading's case, comprehension, informational text. Okay, and then in math, same, you would find it right there at the end. You have a quantile performance tab, which provides information based off of the assessment on discrete quantile and then a range that actually falls into. And the range is typically more important when looking at quantiles and lexiles, just because when you have a specific number like that, it's not really indicative of what only the student can do. They typically perform within a range within quantiles and lexiles. So you can see that here, all right, the lexile performance tab there. And it gives you performance, measure, range, and then it also provides some insight into books and things like that. This actually isn't included, and it's not something that's really pertinent in terms of placing students at the junior high level with an appropriate course, but I do want to make you aware that within each domain, there are PDFs that are actually provided to you. And these PDFs, when selected, provide you mini lessons that you can actually work through with a student that actively target any needs that the iReady Diagnostic has identified. And you can see that there's a variety per domain, and that each domain, when you click on these domain-specific tabs, provides their very own PDFs if appropriate. So in this case, the student's too high in vocabulary, but when we move over to comprehension informational text, there are 7 of these PDFs that are closely aligned to all of the needs identified here. So we've looked at the overview tab. We've looked at the domain-specific tabs, which give a wealth of information. You are able to access this through a paper copy by selecting print. The program will generate a PDF for you. When you select OK, you can see here that a PDF is created. All right, it has all of the same information that we see navigating through those tabs virtually. Here's vocabulary. And here's comprehension literature. They do give you extra pages. Of course, the system recommends products put out by Curriculum Associates. These can just be discarded. But you can see moving down into the next one, there we are again. Strengths, needs, and those continue. So let's hop back in our user guide. Moving down, we just have a reports at a glance feature. As I said when we began the reports topic, student profile is typically where you want to go. And again, that is found, if we hop back, reports, student profile, and then you go ahead and select the appropriate content area, whether it's reading or math, and then you go ahead and select the appropriate student. So we've actually come to the end of our iReady Math and Reading Diagnostic User Guide. As I said earlier, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Mike Allen or myself through email, and those are provided again right here at the beginning of this document. We will also be providing for you individual walkthroughs to support you in taking all of this report information that we have here and using that information to appropriately place the students within either a resource language arts class or within the resource math classes as well. So be on the lookout for that too in another announcement, and they will be broken up by topic as reading and math. All right, so again, should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you so much.